I've definitely been missing the ocean lately. It's only been a few weeks since Santina and I were in Florida, but even that short amount of time away from the surf has me itching to get back out there. I know I've said this before, but the Lakefront is definitely one of my favorite places in New Orleans. It's usually pretty quiet out here. There's not really too many people around. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's the closest thing that I'm gonna get to the ocean probably for the next couple of months. Works the same way as always. Post your questions below and I'll pick out a handful of them and answer them as part of an upcoming Tuesday vlog. The first one this week, ZZ Cats. Many van lifers feel that stealth is overrated and becomes a non-issue after their first few months on the road. Would you agree or disagree? I have to say that I probably mostly agree with that. I think that stealth is maybe more controlled by you than it is by the appearance of your van, than it is, I guess, affected by the appearance of your van. Now, obviously, if you're in like a big Class B RV with visible solar panels and you're parking in the same spot every single night in the same neighborhood, you're kind of stationary, you're not really traveling, it's obviously a lot more likely that someone's going to notice you and call the police on you. But if you're in that same exact setup, that's an obvious living situation, but it fits the local parking regulations, I guess you could say. It's not over 19 or 20 feet or whatever it may be in the city that you're in, and you're constantly moving your spot every single night, never staying in the same place more than once or twice in a month, then it's going to make it a lot more difficult for local people who live in that area to notice you and to really pay attention and to see that you're doing this. And in that case, you're not really going to be noticeable and you're not going to probably have any issues. So I think that you affect your stealthiness more than your van does. Does it help to have a van, though, that it's impossible to tell there's someone living in it? Yeah, obviously it does help. So, it's overrated, I'd say, but at the same time, it can still be helpful. Mark Lynn, what is the coldest weather you ever slept in? What is your average grocery bill? You say, I want to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you, too. I know it's a little late now, but... And then regarding the coldest weather I've ever slept in, probably like 22 degrees Fahrenheit was probably the coldest low that I've ever slept in. Really hasn't been a problem though. I just put on some socks and some pajama bottoms and a shirt, wear a couple jackets and a hat and bundle up in the sleeping bag, and it works out pretty well. And then regarding average grocery bill, that kind of varies a little bit. I find that I cook a lot more when I'm on the road. I'm staying in campsites, I'm traveling around all these free campsites and whatnot, and I find that I prefer to cook in those environments than I do in the city. So I don't know, and also being in New Orleans, the food is really good here, so it's pretty hard to not eat out every once in a while. So I probably spend a little bit more when I'm on the road, probably somewhere around $200 to $250 a month, and then when I'm here in New Orleans, it's probably a little less than that, closer to the $150 a month area, and then I spend a little bit extra on eating out occasionally. Sam Stringer Photography Stringer, has anyone ever tried stealing your surfboard while you are sleeping in your car? I have had someone try to steal a surfboard before. I was not sleeping though. I was actually sitting in the front seat. I was on my phone. It was probably 11 o'clock. I was about to get ready for bed. And I was like sending a few text messages or reading an article on my phone or something. And a guy was coming by on his bike, and he stopped his bike directly parallel with the element and started playing with the straps and started trying to pull on him. And all I did was just look over at him. I just looked right into his eyes. Eventually he noticed me and he kind of jumped, and then he got on his bike and he left and he sped off. So that's the only time that's ever happened. They are secured with stainless steel locking straps, so to get them off it'd be a time-consuming endeavor, and so I'm not terribly worried about it. It's also, my surfboard's not really worth anything anyways though, so it's like not like, I don't know, it just is what it is. But yeah, it definitely has happened before, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. Zen Girl, I don't know if you mentioned this already. What stove do you use? It's a Coleman single burner stove. I can actually just pull it out for you guys if I can get it here. It's right here. Just a regular Coleman single burner stove. I went with a flat one. I used to have one of the ones that mounted on top of a propane container, but that was too high to be able to cook inside the element now that I got this new kitchen setup. So I just got this guy here. There are definitely links to it in the description below and then on my website, elementvanlife.com. Gary Cole, what is your end goal, Nate, in terms of housing? Do you plan to build a tiny home and find some cheap rural land, or be self-sufficient like a high carb Hannah and her husband, or do you prefer, I'm actually not familiar with that. I'll have to look into that. And then do you prefer living near the city? I'm not 100% sure about rural versus city. I'm pretty sure I want to be near the ocean though, so that's one of the more important things. And typically when you're near the ocean, you're also near cities. There really are not too many coastlines in the United States, at least, that don't have nearby people living there, unless it's like in the far north where it gets really cold, like up in Maine and New Hampshire and stuff. But I'd probably want to be somewhere where it's a little warmer. So I think that it's probably going to be more towards the city, but yes, regarding the tiny house, that is definitely in the cards at some point. Not necessarily right away, but maybe at some point in the next 5 to 10 years, building a tiny house, buying a cheap piece of land somewhere, if I can find one, and then just living on that and doing that. Absolutely. Living off-grid entirely, having solar and everything like that. Even maybe trying to do like a rainwater harvesting system and go from there. Mike Cole's vids, hashtag Coleman Van. Hey Nate, we enjoy watching your videos and have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you. Hope yours was good too. My question: what is your go-to for internet when you want to post a video? Starbucks. Almost definitely. Starbucks' internet is incredibly fast, and I'll go in there and I'll spend a few hours there. I'll edit the video and I'll get it uploaded. I mean, I can upload a video at Starbucks sometimes in like 5 minutes. I've done it before. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes or so, but it's very efficient, and pretty much every Starbucks has been good. There's maybe been 2 or 3 in the country that I've been to where the internet stunk and I had to use my 4G data as a backup, but for the most part, it works out really well. And then, yeah, how long does it usually take to upload? Usually somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. Sometimes a little bit longer, but that's typically how it goes. Any tips on posting vids on the road would be great. Yeah, I think that using Starbucks, it's a great resource. And, a cup of coffee is $2. You can go in there, you can charge up all your stuff. Almost always they have charging ports available. I'm a big fan of it. It's definitely worked out for me. And the last one here is from Brandon Hudspeth. You might have already answered this, but how do you deal with the social problems that come with living in your car? 9 months for me at this point in a Ford Fusion, traveling and working, and it looks like you said that you've had some older folks ask a lot of weird questions, a lot of folks that just don't really understand why you're doing this. For me, when I'm telling somebody that I live full-time out of the element, I do it in a very confident manner. I'm very proud of this lifestyle choice. I'm proud of minimalism. I think that it's an important thing that we can all learn at least a little bit from. And like I've said before, no matter what you do, you're going to be judged. And especially if you decide to live in a way that is not the norm being renting an apartment or buying a house. So if you're doing anything different than that, like it's the vast majority of people don't do that, and a lot of them don't even know anything about tiny living or living in a van or RV life or anything like that. So they're going to judge you. And for me, like, I think the best way to counteract that oncoming judgment is to just be confident in the way that I approach these situations and tell people that I live full-time out of the element. And 90% of the time, I don't really have any problems. I think that people are more often than not curious about this. They want to know about it, and I take those opportunities to answer all their questions. And a lot of the time, their questions very similar to the ones that I get in these Q&A videos, and that's why I enjoy doing them so much. But it's a way to kind of expose them to this lifestyle and expose them to this alternative thinking that they may not have previously known anything about. And I really enjoy those opportunities. And like I said, more often than not, people react positively. They're interested in learning more, and they're not really, looking at me and being like, oh, I don't want to be near that guy anymore. If they do decide to do that, then that's their choice, and they're more than welcome to do that, and I'll just move on. There's a lot of people out there who are going to be positive and receptive to this sort of alternative thinking, and I'll just work with those people instead. I guess that's kind of how it is. Thanks for watching, guys. Before ending the vlog, I do have 3 new Patreon pledges to thank: Richard Bush, Patrick Muse, and Chris Bierman. Thanks so much for joining the Patreon team. Your support will help keep this journey alive. I'll talk to y'all in the next video.